I think there's a real genuine interest from Arsenal in Julian Alvarez. I think they're doing this thing where they're waiting for the market opportunity to really arise. At the moment, it is feeling like it could be because of the politics between Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid too. One thing he said in his report was that PSG, who would be a potential destination abroad, who Atletico would sell to, aren't really looking at an option because they want to keep Barcola, which means that is another elite forward that Arsenal potentially couldn't get, which maybe puts more of our eggs in the Julian Alvarez basket. Now, there is a world in which you say Barcola or Rodgers. I don't agree with that. I think they're very different, but there's a world in which you can argue that. I don't think there's a world in which you can argue Alvarez or Rodgers. They're just completely different in profile, in style, in position, in experience, in so many ways. So that becomes really interesting. And it does make me really see Rodgers as an alternative, as a midfielder, as opposed to the forward signing. We'll get onto Rodgers more in a sec. There's been some interesting developments with Villa. But Alvarez, I have to say, I don't know why, more so than a few weeks ago, this link put a big smile on my face. And I don't know if it's because of the combination with the other additions that might come in the spine. Are you feeling that way too?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, there was a point where I was sitting there saying, okay, Rodgers, I'm not entirely sure where he's going to play. If the left wing signing is only going to be Solis, then surely we have to get a striker. That's going to be where we're going to throw our money. But when that went away, as I said, I was looking at the marquee left winger. But the more that I have, maybe it is the World Cup, but the more that I've watched the World Cup, and I know it's not, I'm not going to compare him to the Kanes and the Haalands or whatever, but the more that I've seen that level of striker have that level of influence, the more I've seen the dead ball specialists doing what they do from free kicks, the more I've seen it actually being very, very important to have not only a forward that can help link up play and drop deep every so often with technical ability, but also have an absolutely banging finish. It makes me remember that Havertz has that sometimes, and his fitness is a concern. There are certain elements of what I just described that Gyökeres doesn't have at all. It does make me think that the entire way in which we attack, and most importantly, what we might be watching next year, could be considerably different. I can see the comments now about Alvarez, and I've been thinking about this, and I had this conversation via WhatsApp a little bit earlier. If we do get Alvarez, but Spurs get Krupi Jr., and the price tags aren't too dissimilar, let's say they both go for anything between 80 to 100, maybe. All right, how would you feel about that? In terms of who do you think gets the better acquisition there? Not just for this season, but going forward, given Krupi's age.
As a profile of player, I like Krupi more, but I just think it's so easy for us to see 1 year of Krupi and go, yep, he's the guy, yep, he's the guy. And like, is that where you roll the dice on retaining the title over someone like Julian Alvarez, who's won the Premier League before, who's scored big goals at World Cups, and has had really unbelievably productive seasons for Atletico Madrid? Not so much his second season, but more his first season. Yeah, I don't know. There's people in the comments absolutely losing their heads, saying Gyökeres is better than Alvarez, you melts. Okay, I mean, I disagree.
You missed out a word there as well, my friend. It was far more than just you melts. He's very aggravated.
He's very upset. I mean, I disagree, but we're also not even talking about that, so I don't even know I don't know why they're so upset. The thing about Alvarez, and we're going to bring in Bruno Guimaraes and Rodgers as independent conversations in a second, but I went into this market very much feeling like I want Arsenal to add quality, but admittedly, I don't really know what that looks like. Therefore, when I didn't know what quality was on the market. Therefore, when I did my Dream 11 video, I was looking a lot more at actually almost, once again, a bit like last season, like the collective adding a different dynamic that maybe elevates us more than necessarily just the players. I'll explain what I mean by that. If you add Scott and Wharton, the two midfielders that I wanted us to get, and it looks like, by the way, we are looking at two midfielders, then that for me gives you a lot more on the ball, gives you a lot more control of the midfielder, a really class range of passing. You play with more of a flat three rather than a 2-1, and that can give us a fluidity, an ability to control, and then Barcola gives us pace and dynamism in the front three. That's how I looked at those signings. But I didn't think Bruno Guimaraes or Julian Alvarez were actually legitimate options for us. Julian Alvarez, there'd been some rumours, but I thought, still, I'm not sure. But Bruno Guimaraes, I didn't remotely think of that. And now, my dream window is looking like a pretty shit dream because it's looking like a pretty rubbish night's sleep, because I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, that feels like Arsenal adding, if not world class, because I'm sure everyone would dispute the world class nature of all three of them, that's fine, players that can we dispute they could get to that level? I don't, they all have world class properties or qualities in some capacity. Newcastle fans will swear blind that Bruno Guimaraes is world class already. So my point is, then that's you adding players that you start to go, okay, like that, they're proper acquisitions, and that feels like a bit of a dream window for what is possible.
Absolutely. I mean, the last transfer window, we were sat there and we questioned whether we were raising the floor to win the league or whether we were raising the ceiling. Right, that was a conversation we had a lot. If you're looking at just those three alone, if you're looking at Rodgers, Alvarez, and Guimaraes. Look, I understand people that will say you're definitely raising the floor because you've got more options, but you're also absolutely raising the ceiling, aren't you? I mean, we can't shy away from that fact, because it means that you've got an international starting midfielder who, even in the Brazil team, I know he missed that penalty, but Brazilian fans love the guy. You've got a guy, we'll deal with Rodgers separately, but he's a guy that simply has something that we don't quite have in our team, and I didn't appreciate that at the start of the window. But the more that I watch, and obviously when you're linked with a player, you start watching a few more of their cameos, and you pay attention to them in a way that you didn't before. There is something particularly unique about him, and then the man up front. I mean, those three. That's the sort of window where rival fans, rival managers, they all look around and they go, okay, when the Cronkies were talking about we're not just here for the one trophy and we are going to build. That sort of window lends credibility to everything that they've said, right? And the main thing with me now, man, people might not agree, but I really, really want to feel like Mikel Arteta is getting his first choice players now, because I feel like if you ever deserve to get your first choice players, it's immediately after winning the Premier League. A lot of people might say, well, no, you need them to win the Premier League. That's fine, but we are where we are now. If you've shown that even without your first choice, sometimes you can go and win the Premier League. If you have a window now where your midfielder, your other forward signing, your striker, and maybe a defender are all your first choice, I think we're in for a hell of a season.